I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. We'll start with the acceptance of the meetings. We've got 3 batches of meetings to undertake. That's October 24th, 2022, January 23rd, 2023, and February 6th, 2023. Has everybody had a chance to look at them? I'll entertain a motion on, can we do them all at once?
Yeah, you can do them all.
I'll entertain a motion on the minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of 1/23/23 to 6/23.
So, Bob, there are only 3 of us.
Correct.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. All right. That being said, we only have 3 members on today. We need 3 members, 3 affirmative votes to have a motion passed. Henry's an alternate, excuse me. So I'm going to appoint Henry to sit in on the hearings tonight. With that being said, we can go through and vote on the minutes now. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I made the motion. I made the second.
Did you second the motion to accept the
I
minutes?
second, yeah. Did we vote?
We're voting now.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, first order of business is,
So just a point is to give each applicant the option
Correct.
to either continue forward or to push their hearing back.
that's right, we've got a couple of options here because we only have 3 members on instead of the full 5-person board. If you want, we'll postpone your hearing until we get a full 5-person board, or we can proceed with 3, recognizing that you need 3 affirmative votes to pass the action, the waiver or the variance. So that being said, it's to each of the applicants. It's your call. First order of business here is with Stephen Lyons. It's a public hearing for an application for an appeal from an administrative decision to permit the installation of a kitchen island without including the electrical outlets as required in NFPA 70, the National Electric Code. The property is located at 11 Moody Point Drive, tax map R2, lot 40, zone R1. This item is a continuation from the previous 2 meetings. Mr. Lyons, you want to step forward and address the board? When you step to the mic, please give us your name and address, please.
Stephen Lyons, 11 Moody Point Drive.
Use the mic, please. It's hard to hear.
Stephen Lyons, 11 Moody Point Drive, Newmarket.
I don't think it's working.
It's broadcasting.
It's for broadcasting. Okay, you have to speak loud.
11 Moody Point Drive. Thank you. Newmarket, Stephen Lyons, owner. I'm just here because as of 1/1/23, the electrical code has changed to not require a electrical outlet in a island or a, as it's called, a island or peninsula is the terminology used. So as of 1/1/23, the code has changed. So as written on this summary, it is not the code at the moment. So that's the only reason I'm here, because the code has changed.
Okay.
The way it was built, it can only be put in 2 places, and there's a drawer on each side of the island, so it would interrupt that. I'd have to take out a drawer on one of the sides.
Very good. Do you guys have any questions for Ms. Lyons? Oh, let's open it up. Is there anyone that would like to speak to this from the public? Generally, we open up to public comment if there is. Leave it open for a minute or 2. My understanding of the matter, Mr. Lyons, is that while the National Electric Code changed as of 1/1/23, the state of New Hampshire has not adopted that, and the 2017 code is still in effect.
That's not noted here, so in the minutes of this notice doesn't say that, but.
Sir, could you please speak up? I'm sorry.
The notice doesn't say anything about the New Hampshire code or acceptance of it. It says strictly the NFPL, which is the National Electric Code. So this says one thing, and you're telling me a different thing. So I'm just
No, I'm just
bringing
telling,
that to your attention.
I'm just telling you what it is. The
Well, this would be
NFPA,
incorrect then, I guess, is what I'm saying. Because per this terminology, that is not the
NFPA
case.
70 is the National Electric Code.
Right, which has
Doesn't
changed.
Doesn't say anything about the year of adoption. The state of New Hampshire has adopted the
Right. Well, we should
2017.
probably say per the state of New Hampshire. The code itself has changed.
That's
I
fine.
have the,
That's fine. I've read the material you provided.
Yeah.
It's clear that the 2023 code is different.
right.
The state of New Hampshire has not adopted that.
I understand
We
that.
don't,
but
we
it
don't
doesn't
have,
say that. Doesn't say that here. All I'm saying is it just doesn't say it.
fine. I said it now. We're dealing with the 2017 code. So.
It's a outlet in an island. It's really.
I understand that. And it's my understanding, Dave, you've looked into this a little bit more than I do. We don't have the authority to change the New Hampshire electrical code requirements.
No, you don't have the authority to do that. Your authority lies in determining whether or not I erred.
Correct, and
In the
that's
application of it.
that's what we're here for. So, Dave
Mhm.
reviewed your application,
Sure.
noted that it did not meet the 2017 code requirements,
Okay.
and we're here to either uphold or overrule his decision to apply his interpretation of the code. That being said, you know, have you guys got any? Henry?
Well, I would have to uphold David's decision. I think he made a good decision.
Yeah, I deal with this stuff all the time in construction, and codes that, we follow whatever the code of the state is, or, and have no options, so I think Dave's decision was correct. As petty as the
Yeah.
issue may be.
Okay. So any other item that comes up, you don't have the discretion to make a decision? You
We
to
have a
follow
lot
whatever
of
he says?
discretion.
Yeah, not on code. Not on code. They wouldn't, no.
Okay.
So, do we have a motion to,
Are you gonna close the public hearing?
oh, let's close the public's input session, seeing as how nobody's got anything to say.
So there's never, excuse me, there's never been exception to that in what you've done,
To code?
to code?
No.
Never?
We
Can't.
We don't have the
I'm just
authority.
asking the question.
Yeah,
It's never
no.
been done in the town of Newmarket in the history. So if I go back and look at things, it's never been done?
I can't tell you that, but I can tell you that this, my understanding, I'm fairly new on this. I've only been here in a year and a half, but I looked up the thing in terms of code,
Yeah.
and we cannot change code.
Is there something writing that you can provide to me that says that?
What is it?
Yeah, it's not listed, well, all I can tell you is it's not listed in our
Is that-
role
is
as
that-
the
Is that the
ZBA.
RSA right there?
I'm sure there is one, but.
Yes, it's RSA 155-A:2X.
I'm sorry, one more time, please?
155-A:2X.
So,
Thank you.
so, I'll make a motion that we uphold the code enforcement officer's decision of, do we have a date on that?
So it's November 14th, 2022.
November 14th, 2022.
And I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor and a second. All those in favor, Henry?
Aye?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. You, just as a side note, you have a couple of avenues that you can appeal.
I was gonna ask that question, thank you.
You can appeal, you've got 20 days, within 20 days of a waiver denial, or you can go, which might be the more profitable way to go to the State Building Code Review Board in Concord. It would seem to me that these guys are pretty reasonable up there in my experience.
Mhm.
You'll probably have no problem getting through there, because it's a reasonable request. It's not that we,
Yep.
it's an unreasonable request, it's just we don't have the authority to do that.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I'm sorry we couldn't help you.
No, thank you.
All right, going on to the next order of business. It's from Charles and Carol Smart. Public hearing for an application for special exception reference section 32-5 2A of the Newmarket zoning ordination to permit a 13 by 14 addition to an existing house, which is an expansion of a non-conforming structure within the buildable area. The property is located at 181 Grant Road, tax map R7, lot 8-4 in the R1 zone. Charlie, you got the floor.
Oh, thanks. You got all the copies of the stuff up there?
I think so.
Okay. So what's going on here is that we bought the property years ago in the early 80s. When we walked the boundaries, I was showed, you know, one pin at one end and a wrong pin at the other end, but we set the house that way. And then at the time, we had 15-foot setbacks in the town. Right after I got the house built here, by the time I was got the garage going, the town had changed to 30-foot setbacks, which brought the setback up to my back door, you know. And, you know, when you got a 1 acre lot that's only 150 feet wide, you take 60 feet out of that, and then 70 feet the other way, you don't have a lot left. Anyhow, things got placed, and then the town, the house was built, and they started building the garage. At the time, the town had the 30-foot setback, and then they reduced it to 25 in that area. So the setback's actually at 25 feet. But I'm still, where my garage sits was put there by special exception at the 15-foot mark, because I just had no place else to go with it at the time. Now I'm adding on to the house. The house is a conforming structure, and what I'm adding on will be a conforming structure, but it's going to be attached to the non-conforming structure. And where this new structure is within the buildable zone. Basic, right there, in that shell.
Within the setback, you mean?
It's the garage, which exists, is in the setback. There, but it was there by special exception.
Okay.
All right? So, but because this addition is going to touch the garage, it's going to be mechanically fastened to the garage, it now is called an expansion of a non-conforming structure. All right? So this is why I'm here. If I wasn't touching the garage or not mechanically connecting it, I wouldn't need to be here. But because it's going to be attached to the garage, between the house and the garage, it's called an expansion of a non-conforming structure.
So why are you adding it?
Because I need room. That's the bottom line. I need some more room in the house.
The thing is, he's not making anything less non-conforming.
No.
The non-conformity has all been done by approved waivers and things like that. The house itself is conforming. He's extending that, and it's still within the conforming footprint, but it's attached to the non-conforming structure. So by definition, it becomes a non-conforming addition to a non-conforming structure. That's why he's here. So
Everything being done will be conforming, except touching, because it's attached to the garage, makes it an expansion of a non-conforming structure. But it'll be within the buildable zone. this expansion.
I'm gonna open it up to public comment. If there's anyone out in the audience or out in listening that has something to say about this. Did we receive any comments from the public on this, any letters or anything? No? Okay. And I'll open it up to the rest of the board for discussion. Does anybody have any questions of Charlie?
I really don't.
Seems pretty straightforward to me.
I'm of the same opinion. So, seeing as how no one stepped up to the podium to address it, I'm going to close the public input session and open it up to the board for discussion and or motions. Anybody want to make a motion?
I would make a motion. Unfortunately, I don't have all of the, my page is a little offset here. Can you give me the,
Here you go.
I got it.
thank you.
I don't have that either.
So, there's,
What do you need?
This is, I'm okay. Well, kinda okay.
No, you're all set. We're just looking for verbiage.
We're just looking for verbiage.
Okay.
I make a motion to grant, move to approve the special exception application from Charles and Carol Smart petitioning the Zoning Board of Adjustment for approval under 32-5, paren 2, paren A of the Municipal Code of Town of Newmarket to permit the horizontal expansion of non-conforming structure by connecting the non-conforming garage to the conforming house at 181 Grant Road, tax map R7 Lot A-4, within the R1 zoning district, as the application satisfies the enumerated standards pursuant to section 32-5, paren 2, paren A of the Municipal Code of the Town of Newmarket.
Okay. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, Henry seconds. Al, do you want to vote? Start the voting?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's in here, but
it's in my set.
it's in the staff report.
We never got any of that.
Okay. It's right here.
Oh,
Yeah.
All right, the next item is the PASEC Investment, Inc. Public hearing for an application for a variance to section 32-49 of the Newmarket zoning ordinance to permit a mixed residential commercial development in the business zone where residential uses are not permitted. The variance is also requested from section 32-89 dimensions table of the Newmarket zoning ordinance to permit a higher density of a maximum residential density of 2 units per acre. The applicant is looking to develop this property into a mixed-use space with 3 buildings, one to include 6 first-floor retail spaces and 6 residential apartments above, the second to include 5 townhouses, and the third to include 4 townhouses. The property is located at 3 North Main Street, tax map U2, lot 286, B1 zone. You have the floor. Identify yourself, please.
Thank you. My name is Lindsay Donahue. I'm an attorney at Keenan McDonald. I have with me here today PASEC Investments, the New Hampshire corporation. They've been incorporated since 1995. It has 2 directors. We have Bill Zucker and Nick Pascal. Also here with me today is the engineer on this project, Alex Ross of Ross Engineering, and architect Charles Charles Hoyt of Charles Hoyt Design. So as you had discussed, we're here about 3 North Main Street in Newmarket, New Hampshire. Currently, this is an undeveloped lot of approximately 3.2 acres, and it's right on the border, or well, very close to the border of where Durham becomes Newmarket. So as you're aware, this area of North Main Street is sort of a transitional section of Newmarket and has a diverse mix of residential and commercial properties. Because it is near the entrance, we think that it's primed for this project and would be a good addition to the city. Pazik, which has a long-standing presence in Newmarket, is also the owner of 53 Main Street and operator of Durham Book, and they have owned this specific property at 3 North Main Street since 2006. So this company does have a vested interest in continuing to maintain and expand its presence in a positive and worthwhile way for the town of Newmarket. This project would also create needed housing in Newmarket and provide attractive retail and residential space as residents and visitors enter into Newmarket from Durham along North Main Street. So first I would like to have, did you guys decide? Sure. We're going to have our engineer, Alex Ross.
Thank you.
I'm Alex Ross, engineer and surveyor. I prepared the site plans that were submitted. I wanted to go over the site real quick for the board. So this is a 3.6 acre site. Probably everyone's familiar with it. It's just south of the hardware store. And I wanted to pass out an aerial so everybody understands where we are.
Very good.
So you can see on this aerial, the red marker indicates where we are, and you can see we're just south on Main Street of Aubuchon Hardware. So years ago, there was a farm and a farmhouse here, so this was a residential use. And we've actually traced the deeds back a couple hundred years, so a lot of old town seacoast names, families owned this at one point, including the Wiggins, the Chapmans, and the Bassett families. More recently, when New Hampshire Department of Transportation did a lot of improvements on Route 108, they used this area as a staging area. So if you go to the second sheet, you can see the area that was cleared and it is open gravel area. So the state had a lot of equipment up there when they were working on the highway. And if everyone could look at our plans, so this first sheet is the existing conditions. So you can see here, just like on that aerial, here's that big open gravel area. And then we're surrounded by a woodland buffer around the site. We did work with our soil scientist, Mark Jacobs. He delineated a couple small areas of wetlands, one on the north, one on this eastern corner, and then a little bit way in the rear. So we've shown that on the plan as well. There are some small areas of exposed ledge, so we showed that as well. Currently, the way this parcel is laid out, the driveway is in the southern portion of the parcel. I'd like to go to the next sheet. So the next sheet's our site plan. So you can see on the driveway, we kept that in relatively the same position there. And you can see on the topography, the street is down about 8 feet compared to the hillside that the lot comes up to. And then gradually out back, it tapers back down to about street level. So it's kind of a good setting to position a building, nice street view, landscaping, parking area up on the hill. When DOT did a lot of their improvements, they worked on the utilities in Main Street and the sidewalk. So we did have several meetings with town officials to get their input and their recommendations. And they really wanted us to design a site that would be easy if you lived or worked on this site. It'd be easy to jump on your bike, come down the sidewalk, or even walk down to downtown, or if you're downtown, to come out here. So what we came up with is well suited for that. With the parking area, we did come up with a large portion of the parking area that would be pervious asphalt. So we do want to make sure that we take care of the nearby wetlands and get as much of the stormwater infiltrated into the aquifer as we can. Of course, if the board approved the project tonight, we would go ahead to the planning board and have a much more thorough review of the site configuration and the design. So we do anticipate that. With the design, you can see we do still have a wide buffer all the way around the developed area. So that's still a woodland area, and we do have a lot of greenery, a landscape area. So we've offered a lot of buffer and protection for the surrounding wetlands there to the north and to the neighborhood or any surrounding abutters. And with our meetings with town officials, we did kind of look at a bunch of different options. And one thing that they foresee in the future is this area would probably be rezoned, so would allow more of a mixed residential business.
Excuse me, you've said this a couple of times. You've met with town officials. Which town officials?
Well, there were 2 meetings. So at one point there was an interim building inspector, Peter Rowell, and then we also met with the planner, Bart, and there was a planning consultant who worked for the town, because we talked with him about what would be the best zone or best use or mix in this area.
We also met with Diane Hardy in the very beginning.
Right.
So we had 3 meetings.
They met with Diane Hardy,
Oh, okay.
the previous planner.
So just to sum up, I think the end result of this design, if it is implemented, it will protect the nearby wetlands and not adversely impact the abutters. So the end result would be a nice mix of residential and business that will benefit the area. So I'll let our designer, Charlie, go through his plans.
Thank you. Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Charles Hoyt. I was hired by Nick Pascal and Bill Hurley to design this particular project. I've actually known this particular parcel since 2006 when they purchased the property. So I'm familiar with this property. Back in 2006, we were looking at other ways to best develop the site. We were going to do something that we abandoned, and so then back in 2020, my client came back to me and Alex, and we figured that we'd meet with the town first. So back in 2020, we met with Diane Hardy and then another town official, as well as did we meet with the building? So we did have an initial meeting, and we got their input. We asked their opinion. We had discussions on what would best fit this site. It's a pretty good sized site. I think it's calling to be developed. It's just been vacant for a long time. So then we had a second meeting, and it was flushed out some more. We wanted to reduce the density. We made more open space. It was thought that we best to have like a little greenery, as much green space as possible, and buffer from the neighbors. We decided to keep it a mixed use because I think it's in that particular part of Newmarket, 3 North Main Street. I think it would sit well and having a business presence as well as a residential presence. I designed the building to look very symmetrical, the front building. It's going to be a very elegant and very simple on the eye to have a colonial with very definite proportions, and then the back buildings, the 4 unit and the 5 unit I think are fit well with the site. I think as designers, I think we've hit the sweet spot, I think, if you will. We try our best to not over design a project, but try to keep it so that it fits well. And I think this project fits that need, and I hope you as a board see favorably upon this particular project. And I'm here to answer any questions you might have for any architectural things on the design.
Okay.
So now I'd like to go through the formal part of the 5-part variance test for the board, unless you had any questions prior to me continuing.
No, let's go through that, and then we'll get to the question part in a little.
Okay. So the first question as part of the 5-part variance test is if the variance is contrary to the public interest. The granting of this variance is not contrary to the public interest because the essential character of the neighborhood will not be altered by this project, as there are currently both residential properties, businesses, and multifamily and condominium buildings near or abutting the property. This project would seamlessly fit into the neighborhood. There is no harm to the health, safety, or general welfare of the community. The additional housing will actually be very beneficial to the town of Newmarket, and the retail space will provide an attractive entrance from Durham into Newmarket. The residents of the project and the abutters will also benefit from the retail space that's being created because it'll be in walking distance of multiple homes and other businesses that are already located in the area. The variance to section 32-89 is also not contrary to the public interest because there's still significant green space, parking, and the project is specifically designed to provide a respectable buffer between each of the buildings as well as each abutter, which in effect will lessen the impact due to the increased density of the project. Additionally, the spirit of the ordinance is observed. The prong of this test is satisfied when the requested variance does not alter the character of the neighborhood. Be contrary to the spirit of the ordinance, the board must find that the variance unduly and in a marked degree alters the essential character of the neighborhood. While this zoning area is for businesses, there are a number of personal residences that are located in this zone, and the neighborhood is a mixed commercial and residential area currently. This project continues to uphold the spirit of that ordinance. Number 3, substantial justice is done. Courts have found that any loss to the applicant that is not outweighed by a gain to the public is an injustice. There's no public gain that would result from denying these variances. There will be no benefit to the public that would outweigh PASIC's proposed development of this project. The proposed project is in keeping with the abutters' uses of their properties and would provide a social benefit to Newmarket in providing additional housing. And further, it would provide residents of the project an opportunity to have housing that's in walking distance to downtown that will continue to create a walkable community feel. Number 4, the values of the surrounding properties are not diminished. By granting these variances, the value of the surrounding property shall not be diminished, and in fact, such values should actually be increased based on the new construction and provide additional property tax income for the town. The proposed buildings are visually appealing and fit in with the feel of the area. North Main Street already functions well with its diverse mix of residential and commercial uses, and this project blends both of those uses. This project will have ample parking and attractive green space. It will meet all other dimensional requirements of this ordinance. And number 5, denial of the variance would be an unnecessary hardship to the owners. This prong of the variance test is satisfied when there are special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area. In this case, the lot's configuration, substantial frontage on North Main Street, and of course the wetlands that we've discussed. And 2, that the proposed use is reasonable. In this case, a mixed commercial and residential development in an area with a mix of already both commercial and residential properties. Owing to the special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, denial of the variances would result in an unnecessary hardship because 1, no fair and substantial relationship exists between the general public purpose of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to this property, because this property is unique and that it has the location, topography, and characteristics that differ it from other properties in this zone. The property includes wetlands that require protection. This plan takes that deeply into consideration. It has significant frontage on North Main Street, and it is located within a reasonable walking distance to downtown. And Newmarket is a desirable area to live and to enjoy. This provides housing that is able to be accessing the downtown area. This property lends itself well in both location and infrastructure for this proposed multi-household development. There is no fair and substantial relationship between the use limitation of the ordinance and its application to the property, where PASIC proposes to add these residential and townhome units. The wetland areas on the property further burden the site and limit the amount of land available for development, further strengthening this argument that the proposed project is the best use for the property. Further, this proposed use is reasonable because the residential and business use is in keeping with the neighborhood where both of these uses are currently found, and the property can support additional units without a negative impact to the property or the abutters. This property is considerably larger than many of the abutting properties and contains wetlands that must be respected. This project will not be highly visible to the abutters and makes the most of the usable space on the property while continuing to be a pleasant neighbor to the varied uses on the abutting lots. Are there any questions?
I'm going to save the questions till we have our discussions. I see an awful lot of people out there. I'm going to open up the public session. Again, remember, when you get to the microphone, state your name and your address, and try and, because there's so many here, let's try and keep it brief. I'd like to get out of here before 10 o'clock. Who's first? Have at it.
Hi, my name is Maura Milner, and I live at Wade Farm Condominiums, which is part of the properties that abut this plan. I'm here tonight as a resident of Newmarket and of Wade Farm Condos, and I'm also the current president of the association. And the association and I would like to express our thoughts and concerns regarding the request for the 2 variances requested.
Are you speaking on behalf of the association?
Yeah.
Or on your behalf?
The association.
Very good, thank you.
As the president. One of the best things in Newmarket has been its approach in developing the downtown area and the southern entrance gateway to the town. The entire community led by boards like yourselves and so many other of the citizens in the community, crafted long-term goals, engaging in thoughtful dialogue, and created a collaborative approach which offered the town a vision for Newmarket. We believe this project will not allow the town to do the same thoughtful due diligence for the northern gateway. In short, it would be like putting the cart before the horse. Both entrances need the same thoughtful approach. To show how important this is to the town's future, the town worked hard to get a grant money to do a full review of the northern gateway. Any future development in the north end should not be done till the gateway plans are in place. And our other concerns are the two requests for the variances. Number one, the density variance. This request is if granted, would allow for condos as well as apartments that will be more than exceed the present rules and regulations by more than double the present rule of 2 units per acre. And we ask you to really contemplate again what this really means, as this request will allow for more than double the present rules and regulations. The variances request stated they wanted to get the most out of 3.2 acres. Is that what is best for Newmarket? The request compared itself to Wade Farm condos, but we are strictly residential community of 16 units on 23 acres of land. And secondly, the request for a residential and business use is in a strictly business zone. This piece of property is presently zoned for business. The developers requested the combination. And this request will again drive the development of the Northern Gateway before the town has a vision. We have seen what has happened to water pollution this past few weeks in Ohio and even in our own town with the oil spill. Our well is close to this possible development. What type of guarantees will we have for protecting our well water in the wetlands? And we have concerns for possible foundation damage, decrease in property value, and traffic flow on 108. So in summary, we have a wonderful opportunity here to ensure both gateways have a thoughtful and thorough review for development. And we as a community are hoping that our concerns are addressed as part of the process. So I want to thank you for letting us say our piece from Wade Farm. Thank you.
Quick break.
Okay, very good. We'll adjourn for just a second. Henry's got a... Yeah, I would. Part of the record. We'll just take a couple of minutes.
Any predictions on the snowstorm?
Tell you on Wednesday we're looking for snow on Tuesday.
Like this much, or? No predictions?
I last heard 3 to 6 at home. But who knows?
That's a calamity nowadays.
Shut everything down. I'll let you know when the backfield Wednesday.
Yeah.
Might have been 2, but it felt like 12.
My snowblower didn't care.
Huh?
My snowblower did not care.
My heated tractor doesn't care.
I know where you...
You're both spoiled.
Huh?
You're both spoiled. Took my snowblower out once last year, had a flat tire, put it back in the garage. I'm like, I might have got a mower. I'll just shovel it.
If you wouldn't mind driving
Yeah, well. I was up
They
there,
were,
baby.
they were showing photos of California, and they were opening up one road, and they had a snowblower mounted on the front of a loader, and the snowbanks were higher than the loader.
Is that right?
Yeah, I've seen that a couple of times up in northern Maine, but this was,
Not here.
no. Okay. We're back in session now. Anybody else want to address? I've got a letter here to read that's rather lengthy. Come on up. I'll take the real people first.
My name is Ray Daly. I am also a resident of Wade Farm Condominiums, presently the treasurer of the association. I'm speaking now as a resident. Just had a couple of questions for the developers. One is, how many bedrooms are in the condominium units?
The 4-unit, 5-unit have a primary bedroom on the first floor,
So there's 3 bedrooms per unit, per townhouse.
On the townhouses.
Right.
The front building, which has residential above, are 2 bedrooms.
And how about for the apartments? I see there are 2-story apartments.
That's
Right.
correct, they're townhouses.
It's, in the front?
Yes, sir.
And so there are 2 bedrooms in each of those
Correct.
residential units and above the commercial.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm looking at your plans on the, it says here that you have 2 garages per townhouse.
Yes. Yep.
Are they side by side, or does it go all the way back to the, because it doesn't look like there's enough room to fit two cars in those garages.
Yeah. You, make sure you address the board when you're asking questions,
Well,
and the
okay.
response should be back to the board. Yes, absolutely.
Sorry, are you saying that there's 2 garage spots or 2 parking spots? I mean, those are the two-
It says on your plans that the 9 residential units, I'm assuming that means the townhomes, have 2 car garages. And I'm questioning whether that's actually the case, by looking at the,
It's a 1-car garage with a space in front, or 2 spaces per townhouse.
okay. And there's 1 space allocated, or 2 space allocated for the apartments.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that being the case, it seems to me that the parking that they've allocated here potentially is not going to be enough, because if you've got 3 bedrooms in the townhomes, being so close to the universities, there's the potential that these could be rented out to students. Therefore, they could each have, you could have 3 cars per townhome. There's 27 right there.
I hear what you're saying, but it's not germane to this discussion, because that's a planning board issue.
The number of parking spaces?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But thank you for
But
bringing that up.
it does speak to the quality of life of the abutters, with that many cars potentially, having, oil spills, leaking oil onto the pavement, into the wetlands, into the surrounding areas. Our property slopes down and then goes back up, so we have wetlands that abut the property. With that amount of potential cars there on a daily basis, including the cars for the patrons of the commercial establishments, it seems to me that will affect the quality of life of the surrounding residential abutters. It's not simply a planning issue. As well as the fact that if you have that many new residents in one location of that size, the potential for other kind of nuisances is multiplied. So that's basically my concerns here are for the parking, the number of bedrooms that are there, the potential for how many actual residents are going to be there, as opposed to what is assumed by the board is X amount of residents where with that many bedrooms all at once in one small area. There's a problem there as I foresee it. I mean, as Maura mentioned, our units, 16 units, most of them 2 bedrooms, 22 acres. Here we have 15 units with 2 and 3 bedrooms, mostly 3 bedrooms on 3 acres. You know, that doesn't seem to balance to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to take the mic?
My name is Ben, I live on Maple Crest Street.
Again, please speak up.
Sorry, Ben on Maple Crest Street. I got a question for the developers here. Are these apartments are they for rent or are these for purchase? My question is, I'm concerned about the affordability of the housing for Newmarket residents.
I can speak to that if you'd like. So the anticipation is that the townhome units would be for sale and that the apartments would be rentals. Obviously, we need to look at what the market rates are at the time when this would be approved. But of course, we don't.
Can you ballpark it for me?
It's hard to know right now. We're quite a way out from being able to do that. So taking into consideration what is there. Currently, we are aware that there's very little in the way of any housing available in Newmarket, and this would provide a considerable increase to housing for the city.
Got it. Yeah.
Just to be clear, you spoke very low. Let me repeat if I got it correctly. The townhouses will be for sale, townhouse units, and the apartments for rent.
Correct.
Okay.
That's currently what's indicated.
Thank you.
Yeah, my concern is that these places are not going to be affordable for Newmarket residents who are hoping to move in. Median rent right now in this area, the Portsmouth and surrounding area, is like $1,400 a month, and the apartments right now that are available are about $2,000 a month when I was looking around in this area. So just concerned about, I guess, affordability and whether this is going to be a project for Newmarket residents or for outside people coming in and kind of taking this place away from the residents that are here right now.
Did you say you lived on Maple Street or on
Maple Crest.
Maple
Oh,
Crest?
yeah, over near the high school.
Okay.
What's your last name, Ben?
Buckley,
Okay.
and that's it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else?
I'm Jeff Armstrong. I'm also a Wade Farm condo resident, speaking on behalf of myself. I'm just a little mystified by the process, the zoning process that's in question. For example, 3249, the B1 district, the purpose of the B1 district shall be to provide areas suitable for businesses which serve the community and/or people passing through the town on Route 108. It is further intended that the businesses be segregated from the residential uses to prevent conflict and undue impact on the residents by business development. And clearly this...
That's the purpose statement in the ordinance, correct?
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing is that when you look at the applicant's request for a variance in this, in paragraph 1 below 2, their point 2, the proposed use is a reasonable one because in that first paragraph, the last sentence says, the proposed use of this property is reasonable in light of the plethora of non-conforming residential properties in this zone. Now what they're trying to say is that it's a business development, but nobody's following the rules, or at least it hasn't been followed as it's set up today. And because it is non-conforming all over the place, it's okay for us to be non-conforming as well. And so I would just ask the board to consider what the purpose of the business district is, and to make sure that these kind of conflicts don't occur with this development. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak? Okay.
I actually have a question.
Hello, Matt Van Buren, and I live at 7 North Main Street, which is the property that butts to the south I have general questions and concerns over potential impact to the wildlife in the area, especially given the proximity to Lamprey and just how much activity from a wildlife perspective the river draws. In living there for it's about 18 months, I can tell that there's an entire gaggle of turkeys that reside between our house, the field behind our house, and then the adjacent lot. There is a family of about 4 or 5 deer that frequent the yards and the fields behind it. And as well, I can state with pretty good confidence there's a hawk that has nested over in those woods line. Now, certainly, any amount of construction is going to be a interference to our wildlife, and you know, if we were to take that above all else, we'd never develop anything. But just want to make sure that there's sufficient consideration given to the impact of overdevelopment or developing above and beyond what the town ordinance says for development in terms of density to the wildlife impact. Also, considerations relative to potential light pollution in the area.
Potential what?
Light pollution.
Oh.
We struggled a lot with that on 108. I learned that pretty quickly after moving in, and I have no complaints. You know, I bought the property, I made the decision. But there's a very light tree line on my side of the property that abuts the 3 North Main Street lot. And with the amount of units that are going in, and considering the likely rules around making sure there's appropriate lighting for retail locations, I just want to make sure that there wouldn't be too much additional light pollution that could impact not only my side of the abutting property, but also any neighbors across and diagonally where there might be no real tree line or interference to kind of block that off, especially at nighttime. Thank you.
For your information, those are all points that can be taken up with the planning board.
Sounds good.
Question, Mr. Diggle?
Sure.
Is there an opportunity to speak? You mentioned the letter that I'm aware of. Is there an opportunity to speak after you read the letter?
Sure. I mean, I was just trying to give people an opportunity to go, so if they didn't want to sit through a long letter, they could just bolt. Understand, so.
Perhaps the letter is worth sticking around for.
Maybe it is.
Maybe?
It'll be on tape, whatever. You'll be able to watch us on reruns. All right. That being said, I guess I'll read the letter. It's rather lengthy, and it's on behalf of James M. Phelps, 4.5 North Main Street. Sir, Madam, I'm writing to the Newmarket Zoning Board of Adjustment in reference to the above noted property owners, Payzak Investment Inc., request for variance in regards to Newmarket zoning ordinance sections 32-49 sections 32-89. The undersigned believes that the Payzaks is also indirectly seeking variances towards sections 32-5 and 32-56 as well, which I encourage the ZBA to strongly consider. The undersigned is adamantly against the Payzak application and apparent associated intentions, as they are not in the best interests of the public, nor the town of Newmarket, and the ZBA should deny the above noted application in its entirety for three primary reasons. Number one, the Payzak application ignores and is in direct conflict with sections 32-5, 32-49, 32-56, 32-89, which were established by the town of Newmarket to best serve the town, its residents, and the general public. Two, the Payzak's application seems to be an attempt to manipulate previously approved North Main Street property use and their diversity for the Payzak's benefit, as well as what may be a typographical error or oversight within section 32-89, resulting in some superficial ambiguity. 3. Payzak's application is trying to circumvent current zoning and ignore the best interest of the town residents by taking advantage and partially perpetuating what they believe to be Newmarket's future intentions and potential revised zoning ordinance for the North Main Street area gateway. The undersigned will not address the Payzak's application claims within criterion 1 through 5, as their overall absence of validity or merit should be self-evident with the weighing ordinance section language and the town's authority to create zoning ordinances as it sees fit. The Pays Act's application, section 32-49, 32-49 B1 district, which states in part, the purpose of the B1 district shall be to provide areas suitable for business, which serve the community and or people passing through town along Route 108. It is further intended that these businesses be segregated from residential use to prevent conflict and undue impact on the residents and by business development. Payzak's application clearly ignores this section's language, and in fact, Payzak would like to have business and residential housing commingled within the same property. B. Payzak's application regretfully does not reference section 32-5 nonconformity, which states in part, any nonconforming use may be continued except that if any such nonconforming use is abandoned, desisted, either voluntary or by legal action, or caused to be discontinued for a period of 2 years, then any subsequent use of the building, other structures, or use of the land shall be required to be in conformity with the provisions of these regulations. And Part B, certain districts prohibit single-family residential use, and in such districts, the pre-existing single-family use is non-conforming. To prevent this chapter from being unduly burdensome, single-family houses shall be permitted to be physically expanded and accessory structures added or expanded. There shall be no increase in the number of residential units on the lot, and accessory apartments shall be prohibited. Payzak cannot maintain that because there was once a residential structure on the land, or that there are neighboring residents, that creating a largely residential development will not be in direct conflict with the town's established zoning requirements and their spirit therein. Payzak's application regretfully does not reference section 3256 permitted uses, which clearly prohibit any residential unit whatsoever within the B1 district. Item 2. Payzak's application seeks a variance from section 32-89 dimension table, apparently relative to the density of the units upon the 3.2 acre parcel. Regretfully, the aforementioned table, 4th row heading, is currently labeled maximum residential density, which means when applied to zoning zones B1 and B2 is in direct conflict with the clear and detailed language of section 32-5, 32-49, 32-56, and therefore must be considered as such, and perhaps then it was mistakenly inserted or overlooked in consideration that the majority of the ordinance zones include some type of residential units. It may have been suggested that the use of the word residential within the table's headings regarding density may have been inserted to apply to land that currently has a residential property. However, this is not possible in consideration of section 32-49 and section 32-56, and when particularly weighed with the clear and detailed language within section 32-5, and specifically in the reading of the last sentence within 32-5, there shall be no increase in the number of residential units on the lot, and accessory apartments shall be prohibited. If we were to interpret the use of the word residential within the table regarding density in any reasonable form, we would then have to conclude that business and commercial units upon any land zone B1 and B2 is prohibited because the word business has not been utilized. As we know, this is not the case, as business and commercial units within the B1 and B2 zone or B2 zone are obviously permitted. It is clearly the use of the word residential within the table of 32-9 in regards to the density is a current oversight, and if instead the unit heading were perhaps to read maximum unit density, that would provide the unilateral clarity needed and redirect applicants to sections 32-49 and 32-56 in order to clarify what is meant by the word unit. The clear and detailed language within sections 32-5, 32-49, and 32-56 clearly to provide the intent of the town and in no way can be undermined by perhaps a mistaken use of a word within the dimensional table in regards to density. As a result, the applicant is not only seeking to provide residential units where they are not currently permitted, provide a 350% increase, 6 permits versus 21 currently applied for, in the allowable number of units on 3.2 acre parcel. It may be interpreted that PASAC is perhaps seeking such an egregious increase in density within non-conforming use of one kind or another, so the ZBA approves or increases in density for some kind of PASAC's benefit. The current codes were established for good reason, and I encourage the ZPA to deny this application unless it were to be revised to indicate 6 business units as the spirit of the various ordinance sections clearly indicate. This resident and a butter to 3 North Main Street will strongly oppose any development other than one that is promoting business/commercial units, and hopefully no more than 6 units for the 3.2 acres. 3, it is understood that Newmarket has been reviewing the current zoning of North Main Street for many years, and it is my further understanding that the current zoning may well change in the future, while that is obviously not now because the zoning has not changed. It is my understanding that from at least Stuart Arnett of ADG, who has consulted with Newmarket concerning the North Main Street and other gateways to town, that Newmarket is applying for grant money in order to better facilitate any future changes to the zoning. It is my understanding the grant money would be used for, but not limited to, establishing an architectural consultant to review and properly facilitate any proposed new development. Regardless of the town's applications for grant money, it is clear that Newmarket will be appropriately reviewing all considerations and perhaps some additional consultants in place and have additional consultants in place before making any changes to the current zoning. As most within the ZPA and Planning Board know, Newmarket conducts extensive research and public outreach going back to at least 2012 concerning the zoning of North Main Street, and more recently hired ADG in 2019 to further assist with the town's planning and associated zoning ordinances. In consideration of these efforts and the time that has elapsed, it is clear that Newmarket has been performing its thorough due diligence before making any changes to the current B1 zoning for North Main Street, the proper facilitation thereof. It is my understanding that it may be only another year and a half before additional consultants and or before there are any changes to the current zoning, and it is my opinion that 1.5 years is not a long time, particularly when considering the amount of time has passed and what is at stake. To put it kindly, it appears that the PASACs are trying to put their personal cart before the horse. By doing so, however, PASAC would be undermining Newmarket's effort for at least the last 11 years to the potential lasting detriment of Newmarket. No offense intended, but it appears that the PASACs may be trying to manipulate Newmarket's desire to eventually change the zoning at North Main Street, and the PASAC wants to do so before these changes have been finalized and before the associated administrative infrastructure are in place. I encourage the Newmarket ZBA to deny this application in its entirety for this additional reason, and I encourage Payzak to consider that, that they have owned the property since 2006, and that 1.5 years or so is not a lot of time from now. The bottom line, from my perspective, is that the zoning ordinance and the associated land uses are under the authority of Newmarket alone, and while Newmarket may be changing the zoning someday, Newmarket needs to be the sole catalyst towards any change, and obviously Newmarket is not changing the zoning until Newmarket is ready. The undersigned respectfully requests that the ZBA deny the current application by Payzak in its entirety for any one of the above 3 reasons. When the reasons are held in concert as a whole, it should be obvious that denying the application at this juncture is the best interest of the town of Newmarket's efforts and intended future allowable use of the North Main Street properties. Sincerely, James N. Phelps, 4.5 North Main Street. Thank you for bearing with me. I've got a little bit of a head cold, so absolutely. Oh, I'm sorry. All right, anybody else have anything to add?
Good evening, James M. Phelps, 4.5 North Main Street, Newmarket, New Hampshire.
I hope I did justice to your letter.
I should have had you read it. No, thank you for reading it. I have additional copies, if any committee member would like them, of that letter. I just have a couple points. First, I'd like to ask the committee if you have any questions regarding any of the content within my letter. Okay. Just in passing, Mr. Ross indicated, and I suppose it doesn't matter, but New Hampshire DOT really did not have much of a thumbprint on that property during the construction of 108. In fact, the property was not used by New Hampshire DOT, it was used by their contractor. And New Hampshire DOT did not put it in their general conditions. New Hampshire DOT did not invite anyone to reach out to Payzak or Pazak investors for that property. It was their contractor that, frankly, rather smartly, sought out a place for their staging, not New Hampshire DOT. Mr. Ross did not mention anything to the stream, and I realize a couple of these items might be for the planning board, but I thought the committee might find them useful. The north side of the property does slope down, and I don't know if there's a creek right there on the north side. That creek flows down directly to the Lamprey River, unabated. Again, another consideration. Mr. Ross indicated that they met with the town officials several times. And he did mention some names, but I wonder if any Newmarket official instructed Pazak to proceed with this before the zoning changes, which it has not. 4, Ms. Donahue referenced the properties, the surrounding properties, both business and residential, and the mix, but I think everyone here knows that took 60 to 70 years for that to occur, with various zoning along the way, and it's not as though we currently have, or Newmarket by design had both residential and business located on North Main Street, but that's, again, what it is after many, many decades. And lastly, excuse me, the kind woman indicated that the density would increase to 250%, or 2.5 times. That's not the case. It's 350%.
Correct.
If no questions for me? Thank you.
Not this time. All right. Anybody else want to speak?
William Zecker from Pazak. It's Pascal and Zecker.
Okay.
right? And we've been in town here since 1991. We purchased the property in 2006, and I've spent more time in this room than probably a lot of you guys here. So historically speaking, the property was residential. Now it's the B1. Okay, so when we bought the property, Charles had an office downtown. He had recently renovated the park. And he says, like, let's go to the town, ask them what they want, right? Okay, so we do. We spend 2 years doing that. You guys say you don't want it. It's commercial. It's commercial. What you guys are saying you want, all right? So, all right, what was the second project? So that didn't work. So Mr. Landry, do you guys, anybody remember Mr. Landry? Mr. Landry was going to buy our property, the next 5 houses down, and the properties on the other side, and create an entryway to Newmarket. You guys strung him along for 3 years. He finally gave up. All right, that's fine. You want me to stop?
I appreciate the background, thank you.
All right. Well, also, commercial, Nick was able to get the dollar store, Family Dollar, Dunkin' Donuts, and Subway there. You know what Diane Hardy said? I have a dollar store there on my dead body. So what do you want us to do? Tell us what to do, and we will try and do it. We've been in this town for over 30 years, and we don't want to do any harm to anybody.
Thank you.
I don't like being, existed like that. Sorry. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else want to speak? Seeing as I got no takers, we'll close the public input session. Do you have any rebuttals to the comments that have been made? You want to address those? I'll give you the opportunity.
I appreciate everyone's input. I know that this is a large project for the area, and I do appreciate that everyone has an interest and has come forward with this discussion. This is exactly why we have these presentations, so that people can hear a little bit more. I do think that it provides a lot of good for the city as well, which is why this is being presented in this way, recognizing that not everyone feels that way, but I do know that housing is a big issue. It's a big issue everywhere in New Hampshire. Newmarket is a wonderful place to be, and people want to live here, and they don't have the opportunities to, and this would solve one of those opportunities, as well as providing for a more walkable area to downtown, where we already have some of the nice sidewalks put in, and it's a good area. If you have any further questions for me, I'd be happy to take them.
Sorry.
Oh, if you have any further questions for me, I'd be happy to address those.
So if there's no, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to address some of the comments. Again, like Lindsay said, we appreciate everyone's concern about any new project. Mostly everything that was brought up, as I discussed earlier, this would just be the start of the process. If the board approved this, there'd be a long way to go that would include the planning board, the DPW, New Hampshire DES for surrounding wetlands. So all those items would be addressed thoroughly. Thank you.
I'd like to say something.
Mr. Ross.
and I address this to everybody in this room, I mean, this project was not done in a vacuum. It was not done with just us trying to impose our will. We listened to the town officials. We sat with them for hours. We came unofficially first, and then we came officially with meetings. We got input. We were all there. It was the client, myself, Alex. This was, I think this particular design fits that particular property. If we do it right, and I think we have a great start, we get a great design there. And this is the beginning. We're asking for some pretty specific variances. We're protecting the wetlands. We're protecting the wildlife. We're not touching where they live. We're creating green spaces in this particular design. Thanks to the meetings that we had with the town, we listened. And we've been trying to do a project here since I've known Nick and Bill. And everyone got shut down. So now this time we decided to come back and do it differently. We decided to take their input and to create a really good project here. This is the beginning, I think, of a great project. It's a simple design. It's not too dense, maybe to the particular variance or the ordinances that exist. We're looking for your blessing so that we can take it to the next step and go in front of planning. This is an important project. Yes, it is. We take it very serious. I've been involved with this town for a very long time. My office was in downtown. I worked on the beautification of the downtown. I did several parks here. I did a lot of the buildings here. You don't know me, but there are people in this audience that do know me from when I lived here 30 years ago. We humbly ask that you look favorably upon this particular project. Thank you.
All right.
Sorry, one final question.
Sure.
Before you move to a closed session, what are your thoughts on our project?
All right, I'll take a stab at it. This board is not, we're not here to render an opinion. We're a quasi-judicial board. We have facts in front of us. We have an ordinance that's been written down. It's been adopted by the town through a voting process, and we don't take our role lightly. We don't change rules arbitrarily from the bench like some courts have been accused of doing. We've listened to everybody's thoughts. I personally think you have a very reasonable project there. In my opinion, though, the zoning ordinance is clear. Those are the facts. And that's what we're going to discuss and rule on tonight. But I really appreciate the effort you guys put in. And we ran into the same thing with Walter Cheney just on the other side of the tracks. He came in with a mixed-use commercial development in a B1 zone. He took the time, stepped back, went to the town fathers, and had the area rezoned to M2A. He's going to get his development. So, you know, we're dealing with facts, we're dealing with black and white here. As much as I think the project's worthwhile pursuing, my personal opinion is it's going to be difficult. It's going to be a hard sell on my part. So,
I agree. I think if you look at our roles and responsibilities, they're really very, very limited in terms of the issues that have come up tonight. I've heard about, I took notes from every one of you, and I heard about density. I heard about the need to plan the gateway, parking issues, comments that if rules haven't been followed in the past, that really doesn't, and that's probably the case, but we didn't make those judgments. So we can't rely on those as...
I don't think a new building's been built out there in 40 years. I think the last one was the Aubuchons.
Yeah.
So,
But I'm saying just generally that you can look at our residential, non-residential components, and yeah, there are some perhaps we would think differently about, but that's done. I heard about wildlife and density, light pollution, planning board again. Density came up again. I think it came up 5 times tonight. Again, gateway plan, density again. And so many of those are planning board issues. And I do too. I kind of look at it, and I know my wife would go, hey, pretty good deal. I've been wanting something in there. But we have,
for a supermarket.
that's what my wife, she wants a bakery. But anyway, we have to go to the 4 criteria that we look at. 5 criteria that we look at, and we'll go through those with you.
Is the public hearing definitely closed?
Public hearing? No, we're discussing right now.
Public comments, I mean.
Yeah, the public comments, excuse me, public comments are closed. We're given an opportunity to address the comments that were made by the public, so she's the applicant.
Actually, you didn't close.
I did close, oh, okay, let's close them now.
Make it. Do I need to make a motion? No, you just do it. Done it.
Henry,
Well, okay,
do you have any questions?
I have some things to say.
Okay.
You want to be?
We're in the, do we need to make a motion first?
No, you guys can discuss.
We're in discussion mode right now.
Okay, all right. You want to be in here by 10 o'clock, yes? Well, I read through this application twice, and I've heard some very important concerns expressed. For example, the protection of the wetlands, people's wells. In this application, they speak about the need for housing in Newmarket, but not about affordable housing. To me, that's a really important issue and needs to be addressed. I will quote briefly from the application. When Pazek purchased the property, it had a derelict residential home on it.
And a huge barn.
Sorry?
And a huge barn.
Which shows that the residential use of this specific property was previously contemplated. Well, the ordinance says, it is intent of the town that existing structures of the neighborhood be reused. And here we have a brand new 3-structure proposal. It's really hard for me to see how this conforms to the character of the neighborhood. I just can't see that, given the size and the scope of these 3 expansive dwellings. I heard a comment about the concern for the wildlife, which I think is a very legitimate concern. One second here. And I'm glad the parking lots will be pervious material instead of impervious. However, the wetlands might or might not be protected, and the reference to the creek was very important also, going to the lamprey. So I just have so many questions about this, and I'm not going to go on, but I can't see, given that ordinance, as you pointed out, the chair, Mr. Chair, I just can't see my way through to this, to approving this.
A lot of the stuff you're addressing is in the planning board's bailiwick. First thing we've got to address here as a group is whether or not residential is going to be allowed in this area. And that's #1 concern right now. One thing that I did not get from your presentation was what specific unique aspects about this lot make it so that you need relief, so you can't construct anything there that complies with the ordinance. what's the hardship? Other than you want 21 units instead of 6?
Thank you for that question. You're correct. There is a difference in this specific property compared to other properties in the area. When contemplating what could be the best use of the land consideration with all of the other aspects, there's a considerable amount of land that goes back that is wetlands that we are trying to avoid, and making sure that there's both retail space that was requested previously to it as well. It lends itself well to this development.
But again, what is unique about the lot that makes development within the existing ordinance a hardship? In other words, you could go in there tomorrow and build 6 units, no problem. David granted the building permit in a heartbeat. What is so unique about the parcel that you need the additional density, you need all the waivers and everything? That's the crux of what I'm getting at. We've got an ordinance here we're trying to follow, and they've got the hardship clause in there that's tied to the property use. Mm-hmm. What is the hardship here? I'm just having a hard time getting my head wrapped around it.
Absolutely. It's just the specific property itself and looking at what can be the best use of the property for the owner, and then also taking into consideration every part of this specific property. Obviously working with the engineer and the architect on what this design looks like and making sure that it conforms with all of the topography and what we currently have there.
I understand, but again...
If I could join in that discussion, because I spent a lot of time this afternoon on it, okay, and I can't get over that hardship issue at all, because it is not a unique setting. If you look at the map and you look at the adjoining buildings, they've all got similar topography. And I can, I lost my train of thought here. Let me, and the hardship clause relates specifically to the piece of land. And on 2 occasions, your architect and your engineer said this is a perfect piece of land to build this on, which is really inconsistent with a hardship, in my opinion. I'm going to have to do a lot of, I'm going to have to learn a lot more about what the hardship is before I could even consider operating on. The other criteria, we can and probably should go through them.
We will go through them.
Yeah, but I'm nowhere on the hardship.
At this time, and taking into consideration some of the things that we've heard today, I would like to discuss this further with the rest of my team so we can come back and address some of these concerns that you've had. Would we be able to continue this?
I have absolutely no problem. I would rather be transparent, let you guys get all your ducks in a row and give it your best shot, and then we'd be happy to listen to you. If I'm speaking for the board, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I would appreciate that.
Not a problem.
Thank you.
And the issues that the folks here have brought up, the density issues and so forth.
Those are the things we're going to deal with, the density and the residential issues. The parking and things like that, that's planning board.
Understood. Yeah. I appreciate all the time and consideration you've given it this evening.
We have a meeting scheduled for 27th of March. Does that work for you folks?
Yeah, we'll have to check with the rest, but I appreciate you giving me that schedule, and I've written it down. Okay. I will contact the city. Thank you very much.
We need a motion to continue.
Make a motion to continue
to the 27th.
To the 27th of March.
Close the public hearing, so now you have to open it again and then continue.
No, because the applicant has a second.
You second the motion? I second the motion. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We'll see you on the 27th.
By the way, wonderful presentation.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
I'm not being hard-headed. If this were the M2 zone, you know, I think we'd be talking a different, M2A rather, we'd be talking a different story.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
And everybody out there, thank you for your input. Yes?
The March 27th, is that a continuation of this discussion, informal meeting, or is it another?
No, we're gonna be here to vote. They'll get to, yeah, do we open up the meeting again? And
Probably wouldn't be a bad idea to have.
We'll have a meeting and we'll have more public input if you want to come and listen. They're gonna make a presentation and we'll reopen the whole process.
Thank you.
Say hello, my name's Cal. I need a little fridge back here full of water.
Yeah. Beer.
Henry, we can't.
You need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are we off?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.